What's happening, YouTube? This is John nerding out with cards, and I'm doing a video as a response to Brian at the High Pop Professor. If you are unfamiliar with his channel, I highly, highly, highly recommend you go check it out. It was really cool. About a year ago, he started it up. We all know him because of his brother Al. Had done his uh, top 100 countdown and everything. And that, he talks about that inspired him to get on the YouTube with his collection. And a lot of us, including myself, a lot of our uh, subscriptions and the videos we watch is dominated around vintage. But then at the same time, with my Ozzie Smith collection, I collect a ton of modern cards. And he's done a lot of, really cool deep dives on, the, uh, how hard it is to get certain cards from certain sets. When I think of that, I think of like, the 1996 Collector's Choice. I got this gold signature uh, variant insert from Ozzie Smith. He's got a few more in that set. But how hard these were to get from the pack. Of course, I didn't get this from the pack. I bought it off the eBay. He's got a really cool Greg Maddux collection, and he highlights a lot of the cool, uh, different inserts and things like that. He gets into like the refractors. Here's my personal favorite Ozzie Smith refractor. Not as valuable or notable as the 93, but I like the design of the 95. And like myself, his favorite innovation of the 90s, is Dufex. That's my favorite. This 95 Dufex of Ozzie doing his flip. Such a cool card. The museum collection. This happens to be a 95 as well. And then he gets into a lot of the higher end stuff, like you've seen my Mirror Red 96 Select Certified. But these are the kind of cards, like when you watch his videos, you're going to see a lot of that really, really cool 90s stuff. But if you want to see better cards, a lot more cards, higher end, harder to get, really neat stuff, again, check out his channel. Now, what he asked on his video was, do you collect doubles? And like, you've heard me say, I don't really collect doubles, but then at the same time I do. And I do for a few reasons. So, like you've seen, my first Cardinals Ozzie Smith card. I talked about this, my grandmother getting it for me. And what do? Is I keep this in my Cardinals Hall of Fame collection. Well, then I've got my Ozzie Smith binder. So, well, I need one for that too. Yeah, because I don't want to break up the cards, between different collections, right? And then at the same time, because this is such, for me, an iconic landmark card for Ozzie, I needed a graded copy, right? And so I have a graded copy. PSA assigned 9, older slab. Would it be a 9 today? Don't know, don't care. But yeah, so I have 3 copies of this card. Some of the doubles I have is like this 1992, best defensive player. I know that to be a fact, of Ozzie Smith. And why do I have a double? Well, because this one's autographed, and then the non-autographed is in my binder. Another reason why I collect doubles for Ozzie Smith is, 85 is my year. So I wanted to have cards for my binder. And then I also wanted graded copies. I don't know, it's kind of weird. They're not valuable at all. And then I also have an autographed copy, from when I met Ozzie last fall. So now I have like 3 copies of this card, much like the 82. But yeah, there's the base. And then we're going to go with the Tiffany. You know, see, it's got that lighter back. And then the O-Pee-Chee. Yeah, and I know he has other 85 cards. He's got more in the Topps set as well because of the All-Star. I'm just going to go with, a run of the base card. He's got a jumbo too, but I haven't been able to find that one graded already. Do I really want to send one in? That's definitely not cost effective. If I run into one along the way, I'll get that, and then I'll have another double. But there's also like players that I collect. They happen to be Cardinals Hall of Famers because, well, they're amazing. And like I said, my Cardinals Hall of Fame is I want it in this binder, and I want the binder to be together. But then I also have, player runs, player collections, whatever you want to call it, of certain players. And so I want their cards with that collection, and I want the Cardinals Hall of Fame collection with it. I know, does it seem kind of silly? Maybe, but it's how I want to collect. A lot of these cards are not very expensive at all, so it kind of helps with that. One card will be a little bit more expensive. I think I'll just go with the second year card for that guy. We'll talk about it later. So, the obvious is Stan the Man. So that's why I have 2 copies of his first Topps card. And you've seen, I'm sure you're very familiar with this card. That's one of the things when I get into that collection, it's the first Topps card. And then if they don't have a Topps card, I get other cards to represent them playing days. But that's why I have 2 copies of this landmark card right here. This one goes in the binder, and this one is a part of my Musial collection that is growing, thankfully. Took long enough, but got it going. Ken Boyer is my guy. You've seen this card before. So this one is part of my Boyer collection. Also growing. And this one goes in the binder. Willie McGee, huge favorite of him. So you've seen these before. This is for the Cardinals Hall of Fame collection. This is for my Willie collection. And then I do a little bit of prospecting with the Cardinals Hall of Fame. Much like people do with the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Yeah, there's a PSA registry set for it. And there's people that don't participate in the registry, I'm sure, do that as well. But, I'm pretty sure Yadier Molina is going to get in the Cardinals Hall of Fame. So I've got my graded copy, and I've got my ungraded copy that's going to be for the binder. This one, also in a PSA assigned 9, pretty inexpensive card, newer-ish slab, I guess. But, a lot of these graded cards, what I want to do is, maybe have like on display kind of thing. But do I collect doubles? No, but yes, at the same time. And these are the reasons why I collect the doubles I do with Ozzie. It's because I have graded copies and autographed copies of common cards. These are common cards. You've seen my rookie cards already a few times, so I'm saving you from that. But I want them in the binder because I like flipping through the binder separate of, what I keep in this box right here. And then my Cardinals Hall of Fame collection, like I said, I'll look forward to deep diving into this more. But I actually have gone to the Cardinals Hall of Fame with this, and I just don't want holes in it. I keep low condition stuff for the most part in here. And I've taken this to Hall of Fame, flipped through it there. But yeah, like I said, don't want holes in it. But then at the same time, when I'm looking through my stack of Ken Boyer cards here, I like his rookie card being in this stack. When I flip through them. Same thing with my Willie 1983 rookie year, rookie cards. My Musial run. When I'm in the mood to look at my Musial cards, I just want to look through all the usual cards. And I want that 58 card right there. So, again, if you haven't seen Brian's channel at the High Pop Professor, I highly, highly, highly recommend you check it out. Especially if your YouTube feed is dominated with like vintage and things like that. It's a good little, change of pace in a sense, and he does an amazing job of talking about these, 90s sets. He talks about some 80s cards too, like the Tiffany's and what have you. So I hope you all enjoyed this. I know I'm not unique in how I collect about this, but do you collect doubles? If you do, why? If you don't, why not? I'm sure people have, uh, the one card, and it can move around, and if they were looking at one collection scope, they could just pull it out and have them all together and whatnot. But something I've been thinking about, and then he comes out with that video. So what better time than now to talk about these cards? And I hope you all enjoyed it. Have a good one.